we're pumping the tires of Scottie Barnes. He's been spectacular. What have you liked the most so far out of his game, Sam?
Well, his consistency and that being in the NBA in the moment hasn't been too big for him. Now, I would pump the brakes on some of the names, Shaquille O'Neal, David Robinson. First of all, those guys played entirely different positions, and they played the game totally different than what Scottie Barnes is going to eventually evolve into. Start looking at a guy like Scottie Pippen. Start looking at Scottie Barnes as a guy that may be and could possibly, if you're going to give him that type of praise, start saying maybe he could be a better version of what Scottie Pippen was, a guy that can be a top first-team all-defender, but yet a guy that's a little bit more consistent scorer. Because when you look at Scottie Pippen's career, as great a player as he was a better defender and facilitator than he was scorer. And I think Scottie Barnes can do those things that Scottie Pippen did, but he could be a more consistent scorer because if you look at their careers this early in their careers, he's already more of an advanced offensive player than Scottie Pippen was at this point.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of caught me off guard, Sam. And admittedly, I was connecting my view of the player through the likes of scouting reports and mock drafts and YouTube highlights. I wasn't watching a ton of FSU games, with all due respect to Scottie Barnes and college basketball last year. So all I heard was huge athlete, great guy in the room, guy you want on your team, but can't shoot at the NBA level. So how has he made it work? How is he shooting 55% from the field through 7 games when all we heard was he had to improve his shooting?
Because he's not stupid. Because when people talk about, look, let me tell you, Kyle Korver was a shooter. Fred VanVleet can shoot the ball. What Scottie Barnes is, he's a scorer. The scorers can shoot. They can go to the basket and finish. They can get out in transition. They're better than average free throw shooters. And if he improves in those areas, that's what you have to be a scorer. And that's what he is. Guys, look, you don't have to be a great shooter in the NBA to be one of the best scorers. As a matter of fact, I can argue with you, and I think I can prove my fact. The guys who are the best scorers in the NBA are not the best shooters. Steph Curry may be the only exception because Michael Jordan was never in the top 5 or top 10 in field goal percentage. Steph Curry may be the only guy when you look at his three-point percentage because of how unique his skill set is. But for the most part, the best shooters are not your best scorers or the guys that are going to average the most points. So he is not a great shooter, but the thing that makes him effective is that he can score at all 3 levels.
Sam, what's the key from the coaching perspective to keep this thing on the rails for this young player, to make sure it just continues on the right track and he progresses and develops, and there's going to be bumps in the road. That's inevitable. But what for you is the one main key thing from a coaching, just an organizational standpoint where you say, we got to do this with this guy?
Excuse my French, and this is going to sound tough. Stay in his ass and continue to coach him and hold him accountable because that's the only way. Guys, look, when you have success in the professional leagues early in your career, it can either make you hungrier and work harder, or it can give you a false sense of security of where you really are. Professional sports can change on a dime. You guys know that. You can be really good, or people can think you on the come up, and then all of a sudden people catch up with you if you lose focus and stop working. Right now, Nick Nurse has been on him. He's pushing him. He's holding him accountable. He's making sure that he do the things on both ends of the floor that he needs to do. And there is nothing wrong, guys, with holding a young player accountable. Let me give you a career. Kevin Garnett, Bill Blair, Flip Saunders held Kevin Garnett accountable early in his career. What kind of player and what kind of teammate he turned out to be?
Pretty damn good.
Pretty good, yep. Pretty good. Yeah, well, and in terms of the tactical element of coaching, with Barnes out tonight, we're chatting with Sam Mitchell. The Raptors are in New York taking on the Knicks. You can see it on TSN, hear it on 1050. Barnes is out tonight, but it doesn't sound like it's long-term, and Siakam's going to return soon. So how do you see this rotation working out once Pascal is back? Because Barnes has been playing the 4, and he's been chewing up a lot of minutes, and plays been going through him, or he's finding shots. You bring in Pascal, how might that change the way that Nick Nurse decides to operate here?
It should make them better, guys, because I believe at the end of the day, if you can play Scottie Barnes at the 3 position and you can have a front line of Pascal, Scottie Barnes, or even go be a little deeper, play him at the 2 because of his ball handling ability. If it was me, I would put out there Scottie Barnes at the 2, OG at the 3, Pascal at the 4, and probably Precious Achiuwa at the 5 with Fred VanVleet. And that size alone will probably make up for not having a true center. And then when Freddie comes off the 4, put the ball in Scottie Barnes' hands with Gary Trent Jr. when he comes in the game to give you some more shooting, and let him handle the ball and run the offense. Because when you watch how the Raptors really play, they really have multiple ball handlers at their 4 position that can initiate their offense because they don't run a traditional high screen and roll, pick and roll type offense.